I'm saying that just to give the sense of like there should be an ongoing sense of scholarship, right?
Yeah.
Somebody can come with a fresh idea, a challenging
new thought,
It's
and then we say, okay,
it's
let's
a radical
explore it.
it's a radical proposal, honestly. And then we don't just dismiss it because it's radical, but we say, okay, let's subject that to some thought processes. I heard someone say about a scholar so and so is a beast, and I was like, that's not very respectful. And one other scholar was mentioning, said, oh, he's my dog. I was like, you know?
I used to say about Habib al-Farahi, he's my gangster. He's so gangster. And some people are like, Astaghfirullah Azim, he did not commit any such crime, and he did not belong to the mafia. No, he didn't, but
No, he killed it though.
He did kill it. Okay, Bismillah. We're ready to move on to the second floor of your library.
Yeah, so here I've got, among other things we'll come to, a section on Quranic language, words, lexicology, balagha. And to be honest, I've got bits of that. And yeah, I know, it's excited. We've got bits of that in other sections of the library as well.
Yeah.
But in a way, this is just the bit where that's what's going on exclusively. I've got another part about Quranic dictionaries, for example. But to start with, the ones I brought down are largely to do with individual words in the Quran. Do you have, this is one we maybe looked at as a PDF sometimes, but I've got a physical book. Individual words sometimes which are seen as synonyms.
Right.
So that's to say they have the same meaning. Is that the case? Is it the case that any word in the Quran has the same meaning as another word in the Quran? Well, for some people, absolutely not. Cannot possibly be. I'm not sure. Like you people, yeah. So, but at the same time, I have a lot of sympathy with that, because the basic principle is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has used one word here and another word there. And it's very legitimate to ask why this word here and that word there. And each one we would understand to be most appropriate to its specific use and a specific context. That being said, I don't absolutely rule out that two words mean the same. It's just that there's always going to be some shade of difference. But the meaning of a word depends on different things. It depends on how it's used. So if people start to use two words in exactly the same way, then they would mean exactly the same.
You know what's interesting about that? One of the terms that I wasn't really as familiar with and I got acclimated to over time is al-ma'ani al-thawani, like secondary strands of meaning. So for example, anger, rage, or whatever else have an 80% commonality to them. They're referring to the same thing.
The basic meaning is the same.
Is the same. And then there is a strand, a thin layer that's, kind of different about this word from that word to that word. And people that are eloquent, as opposed to general folks, people that are like poetic in their language, philosophical in their language, etc., they're very careful about the choice of word. Not just thinking about the fundamental meaning, but also thinking about that thin layer, that second layer. And which is why I find myself inclined more towards the Quranic usage of, consideration to that second layer in the study of synonyms.
I fully agree with that. I would say also that the choice of a word can sometimes be because that's just the word that goes with that other word. It became it became paired with it. It became appropriate to use with it, even if it's the meaning is not different.
Right.
And sometimes it is to do with the sound of that word. It fits better within this particular ayah. Even dare I say the ending word because of rhyme, right? Although this is not to do with words, why is it in one surah Rabbi Haruna wa Musa, another Rabbi Musa wa Harun?
Right.
Now, one can have different points of view and explanations for that, but some of the scholars very comfortably just said lil fawasil, because the verse endings then.
This person's going to say no, not lil fawasil.
Right.
I disagree. Sorry about that.
Samarra'i,
yeah.
So
some scholars really just consider sometimes the change in or the use of a word or an order for the purpose of maintaining the fawasil, the rhyme scheme, that creates an audible harmony.
Which in itself is part of what the Quran is. It is
Yes.
beauty and it is sound. And it is, of course, meaning is the primary consideration, but it's not the only consideration.
You know, again, like on that note, I used to have more compartmentalized thinking. Like I used to think of style as something separate and substance as something separate. But the more I study this area, the way you communicate something, even some of the stylistic components of language like intonations or the number of syllables in your sentence, stress, where you place stress in a sentence, these are all matters of style, but they can actually have a significant impact on the impression you leave on your listener, right? So it's not as simple to say, okay, well, this is only for the consideration of rhyme. Rhyme can actually subconsciously connect a subject to what is going on before and create a sense of continuity. And it's not like mathematics, like language issues are black and white. There's actually psychological and even subconscious things to consider. And it's interesting and not directly related. And it's something I'm curious to study more of, the impact of, poetic rhyme, music, rhythm, on the way that messages are processed, right? Like even children, like children's rhymes. Why are they rhymes? It's not just, I wouldn't argue it's just because they're easy to memorize. There's something, because kids can memorize anything. They can memorize actually quite a bit.
Yeah.
But putting it in a certain way.
And even when you tell somebody a certain wisdom or something, finders, keepers, losers, weepers.
Right.
This sounds true because it rhymes,
Yeah.
There's an impact from that.
Yep.
And people say, oh, well, it rhymes. It must be a very well
The one
thought
who
out
locates something gets to maintain possession of it. And the one who...
I don't believe that. That's completely unconvincing. So like, okay, going back to the synonyms in particular, so this is a modern, probably from masters and PhD.
This is contemporary also, right?
Yeah. So most of these are, and then we've got some of the sort of older works, Al-Furuq al-Lughawiyya of Al-Askari and Hakim al-Tirmidhi as well.
Yeah.
So the Furuq literature exists to kind of say there's no true synonymy in the Arabic language or particularly in the Quran.
Right.
And then you've got works which do kind of, they say at least a certain word, one particular word in the Quran. Does it have one meaning throughout the Quran, or does it have multiple different meanings?
Can it have different, yeah.
So when they say kulliyat al-alfaz, that's sort of looking at how a word travels across the whole scripture with the same meaning. But then you have another field which is called wujuh al-Quran.
Wujuh al-Quran, yeah.
Or called al-wujuh al-nadha'ir.
This is an important subject because a lot of times there are, now especially, people are saying, look at how Allah used this word throughout the Quran. It always has the same. No, it doesn't. And that's not even true of natural just language. That's not how language works.
Yeah.
You can have,
it's not mathematics again.
Yeah, again.
Tawaffi equals tawaffi just because it's the same word and the same letters.
Exactly.
It really depends on what's going on in the specific place.
Yeah. And it doesn't take into consideration many factors. Like, for example, words can have antonym meanings, the opposite meaning in different contexts. Like an easy example in English is something like screen, right? If there's a screen between you and I, it's a barrier to view, right? But if I was screening a film, or if you were screening a documentary, it's the exact opposite. I'm showing you a film.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not a barrier to entry, it's the viewing itself. So words can have very different implications. And the other side of this is like figures of speech. Like if I said, man, that guy was a monster in the game. He was just a monster when he played that game. The word monster is not being used in the dictionary meaning of monster. It's being there's isti'ara happening here, what we call isti'ara. And so like,
I heard someone say about a scholar, so-and-so is a beast. And I was like, that's not very respectful. And one other scholar was mentioning, said, oh, he's my dog. I was like,
I used to say about Habib al-Fry, he's my gangster. He's so gangster. And some people are like, Astaghfirullah, he did not commit any such crime, and he did not belong to the mafia. No, he didn't. But
he killed it though.
He did kill it. Yeah.
So yeah, these are a few different dimensions of words. But again, like it's good to know the range of things relating to these words.
I have that book.
Oh yes, this was actually my examiner on my PhD.
Was he?
This is
sorry.
This is Salwa al-Awwa,
Oh, okay.
and it's got an introduction by Aisha bint al-Shati, the famous Egyptian
Whoa,
mufassira.
that's heavy.
Yeah,
MashaAllah.
because she was a supervisor of that thesis. So yeah, al-furuq versus al-wujuh and nadha'ir. In a way, there's a little bit of even conflict between these different parts of the discussion.
Yeah.
But that you will have to read about in explaining the Quran through the Quran when it comes out, inshallah. This is a funny one. La wujuha wa la nadha'ir. So this person really doesn't agree with the field of wujuh and nadha'ir, but the title ends up being contradictory because wujuh is the opposite of nadha'ir. So he wants to say there is no variation of meaning. Every word in the Quran has a set meaning. So he should say la wujuha fil Quran, because nadha'ir means parallels. And
so, okay, let me ask this author a question. Just you answer, you pretend to be the author, okay?
I'll try, but I haven't actually read that.
So ليس على الأعمى حرج ليس على المريض حرج ولا على الأعرج ولا على الأعمى, right? So أعمى, blind. So the blind don't have to go to battle. There's no harm on them if they don't go to battle, right? And then the أعمى used in the Quran, ومن كان في هذه أعمى وهو في الآخرة أعمى.
Well, that one's quite easy.
It's the same meaning?
It is basically the same meaning, because even when we translate it, we would probably say blind and blind, right? But there is a difference in the application of the meaning or in the secondary level. That part is fairly easy. One is literally blind, one is metaphorically blind.
Metaphorically blind.
But it's not a different meaning of the word.
But once you say metaphorically, it is different. It's fundamentally different.
Again, a lot of these things, it just depends on how you want to calibrate.
Just a
yeah, of course. I don't agree with it, but of course, I believe that there are wujuh in the Quran. But the point is also that you can go to excesses in the wujuh approach, where you say,
can go to excesses.
Where you say, kitab actually has been 17 different things or something, and then in reality, they all basically mean book, but a sort of different sense, a different nuance, different particular aspect. So anyway, that's one branch. And then let's say it got various things to do with Quranic linguistics. Majaz is an important subject, so the metaphorical usages.
Figures of speech.
A very beautiful book by Sheikh al-Mat'ani, who's the same person who wrote that response to Abdul Sabur Shaheen we saw earlier.
Oh, okay.
So it's nice. There's connections sometimes in the library due to the author.
Right.
So this is the kind of thing that keeps you awake and keeps you alive. Actually, I'm going to just throw these down here, and we'll pick out a few of them.
You just told me about this one the other day, and I was like, yeah.
Because I forgot that I bought it, and then I remembered, and I was very happy because the title just itself kind of draws you in.
Yeah, العدول في الجملة القرآنية. Yeah.
So where you have a kind of expected form for the sentence, and then where, for some reason, it was put in a different order. Something was brought forward. Instead of a noun, you've got a verb. Instead of a verb, you've got a noun.
Instead of definite, indefinite.
And then you've got generally what's called iltifat also.
Iltifat also
falls into iltifat. Iltifat is sort of slightly more specific than probably what is discussed in this book.
So this is a really fun exercise, as the stepping stone into Balagha studies. And actually, even at the most advanced levels, it really works. It's a formula that, even as you advance in your layers of understanding, it continues to work. Is you hear something said from Allah, and you ask yourself, what was the most basic, fundamental way of communicating this idea, using this vocabulary? Not with this arrangement, not with the sequence of words, not with this choice of what was done to the word. And then you say, well, that's the base. Now, how did Allah depart from that base and choose this alternate expression that normal people would never have used in the way that He did? And that, brings out the kind of the asrar balaghiya, especially in ilm al-ma'ani. Thanks for the say. I feel like my life just got saved. So very cool.
Yeah. So there's so many things as well that are written within the context of i'jaz. Talking about the miraculous aspect, because when you study balagha, or the balagha of the Quran, that's linked to the subject of what makes the Quran so beautiful, what makes the Quran miraculously beautiful and eloquent. And in fact, the field of balagha emerged from that question.
Yes.
Actually, what makes the Quran miraculous? What is this challenge that's presented in the Quran to produce something like it? Like it in what respect? In what respect are they unable to do so? So in order to answer that question, scholars got to work on how does the Quran work and the Arabic language work, and they developed this theory So we have, I'll come to it in a moment, but Al-Jurjani, Abdul Qahir Al-Jurjani,
Right.
is the sort of the progenitor of this field.
He wrote I'jaz al-Quran, yes?
Yeah, Dala'il al-I'jaz.
Dala'il
Yeah. So, and then his other book here is Asrar al-Balagha.
So, okay, yeah.
The reason I've got it there is because Muhammad Abu Musa is one of the great contemporary Balagha scholars and really the lead man at Al-Azhar in this field. He has specifically done like an introduction to those books, and so, but from that, the field of Balagha actually flowered and developed, and it became the established understanding that the Quran is miraculous because of its eloquence. And that eloquence can be studied in certain ways, but then, of course, no study is going to encompass the reality.
All the dimensions of that eloquence, yeah.
So, دراسات جديدة في إعجاز القرآن.
Cool.
Many such things. So,
why do I want to steal these books from you? Why is like I'm constantly fighting? I'm just reminding myself السارق والسارقة فاقطعوا أيديهم constantly as I'm sitting here.
Well, it's not sariqa if it's actually left open like that. It's only sariqa if it was in a protected. If you broke into my house, then
yes,
that would be the problem. So جماليات التعبير القرآني من خلال الدرس الإعجازي. I mean, just there's so many of this type.
Yeah.
الإعجاز في تعاقب الحروف في تفسير القرآن الكريم.
Oh wait, what? What? With تعاقب الحروف?
We don't have time.
I know we don't have time, but like, oh, bro, I've been looking for this. Like,
oh, you should have asked.
I really should have asked.
أسلوب الالتفات في البلاغة القرآنية.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
All right, but look, this one caught your eye.
This one did catch my eye. Yeah, I'm gonna put this on the side over here because
سر
my friend.
الإعجاز في تنوع الصيغ المشتقة من أصل لغوي واحد في القرآن.
So this, yeah, go ahead.
I'm just saying it shows you like there's so many ways to come at this subject and so many individual things to write.
Yeah, I think we should be translating some of this. At least gives our audience some idea because we're geeking out and then like they're like, what? There's like a lot. They said a lot of Arabic stuff.
Well, I'll invite translation interns to come and they can
Okay, let me give you guys some idea. Okay. دلالة التقديم والتأخير في القرآن الكريم. I looked through a couple of pages of this book. I thought it was fascinating. This is a book dedicated to sequence of phrasings in the Quran. So that can be within a sentence or items in a sentence. So the entry that I looked at just randomly was an ayah in which multiple prophets are mentioned, but they're not mentioned in chronological order. And they're not mentioned in the order of, let's just say, the Ulul Azm, the prophets of the greatest resolve first. So they're mentioned in an order that's kind of hard to wrap your head around. And he's looking at classical scholarship, scholars that did work on tafsir from a linguistic point of view, and they're trying to figure out what could we learn from this sequence, right? So he's paying attention to if Allah is saying heaven and earth or earth and heavens, or if he's saying trees and mountains, why not mountains and trees? And like he's paying attention to small items that are together in that way, and digging into the linguistic subtleties that we can learn something from. So that's this book, really, really fascinating stuff. A few that we skip through quickly. This is the style of transition in the Quran. So Allah will be talking about something in the past tense, switch over to the present tense, or He'll speaking about something in the singular. All of a sudden, you find the plural, things like that. Or subject will change abruptly, and this is a study of what could those things entail and what makes it beautiful. This is التعبير القرآني من خلال الدرس الإعجازي. So the Quran's style of expressing ideas and the Quran's expressions, figures of speech and expressions that are really quite miraculous in how much they pack and they contain. And so this was studied as something that it makes it miraculous.
These are a couple I was going to show you particularly as well, in terms of the topics.
التعبير القرآني والدلالة النفسية. Yeah. Well, wow. So Quranic expression and the psychological, indicators within it. Really interesting.
I haven't read this one yet, but when I saw it and thought of you, I'm not gifting you it, but
you already have.
Just a moment. Show me.
Stamp. No. You think that's going to stop me? You're going to stop me, boo? I'm going to get a stamp made and put it on top of it. I got a stamp for, oh my God. That's pretty, I can't even. Yeah, وَمُسْتَقْبِلًا.
Can't be undone. So then we have sections here, you could say, for some interesting authors at the moment. So I don't know if you've had a chance to see this book.
I have not.
I will tell you something about it. And then we've got Sheikh Samurai.
Of course, Dr. Samurai.
Of his
I think
books.
I've read all of his books.
You've probably read all of this.
Yeah,
for sure.
I've read all of that.
So
I even read books.
mashallah.
Like, seriously, like.
This one, this is an author called Dr. Bassam al-Sayeh. Actually, he writes it like that in English, but it's a Sa'i in Arabic.
Oh, so this is the English book?
There's an English book called The Miracle.
Is that the one where he compares hadith language to Quran language? Or no, he uses
not exactly.
the Quranic phrasings that are not found, any precedent of it is found in any Arabic literature.
So his basic idea is, what made the Quran miraculous and makes it miraculous is that just about every turn of phrase and expression in the Quran is completely new.
Unfound. Yeah.
And yet, that is to say, he studied through Arabic poetry, and yet it was intelligible to his audience. So that is a miracle in itself, that they were hearing something which they didn't know anything of it before, and yet they could make sense of it.
So, like, you know how we say neither nor? I believe one of his examples was غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ. So neither nor is la wala or ma wala, right? That's neither nor. But there's ghayr wala here, right? And I believe his argument was across the corpus of hadith and across the corpus of anything that's found in the Arabic language, ghayr and la are never combined. It's an exclusive Quranic invention.
So it's definitely an interesting argument. I would say that this thesis needs some cross-examination.
Yeah.
Because what happens is also people get very excited by new things.
Yeah.
In itself, this is a new idea. The whole I've got here. This is the whole history of scholarship on what is the miracle of the Quran, what is the balagh of the Quran. So he's got a new idea here.
Yeah.
Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah Daraz had a new idea, which is that the miracle of the Quran is always in its conciseness. It's ijaz.
Okay.
Right. So these things as well, someone can come along later and say, well, for example, here, to what extent can you really compare the Quran to pre-Quranic materials when we don't have that much actually to go on?
Correct.
Can we really be sure that nobody said ghayr wala before, just based on the fact that we don't have it in existing poems?
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm saying that just to give the sense of, like, there should be an ongoing sense of scholarship, right?
Yeah.
Somebody can come with a fresh idea, a challenging
new thought,
it's a radical proposal, honestly, and then we don't just dismiss it because it's radical, but we say, okay, let's subject that to some thought processes. So Samurai, you don't just spend lots of time, because you talk about him the day and night and in your sleep, but this is maybe his more recent kind of development.
It's not as recent, but yeah.
So Ma'ani Nahu is how he's taking this sort of grammar.
This is the marriage between grammar and balagha, actually.
Yeah.
It's remarkable work. Absolutely remarkable work.
Yeah. And so then towards now something more recognizable as tafsir rather than, as it were, sort of this.
Even though this is not, I think it's Baqarah, but I think then after that is kind of a sporadic collection of surahs.
Yeah. So I think sometimes some of his works are repackaged. That's fair enough. It makes it more accessible.
Yeah.
And then the last from this section is Dr. Muhammad Abu Musa. He's right behind you.
Yeah.
So
I'm very curious about him, actually. I haven't been introduced to his works as much. I'm very ignorant.
So this is going to be
my new best friend.
Oh yeah, mine too. To be honest, I haven't had the chance to really get into his works. I'm a bit intimidated by them, if I'm honest. But he is known as Shaykh al-Balaghiyin.
Really? No, I'm intimidated.
So let's see some of the important titles.
So this is the Shi'ar one. So this is the scariest one. So I'm going to leave that one alone for a second.
Yeah. So he's going into so as I mentioned, that's his introduction to the two books of Al-Jurjani. That those are just the two books of Al-Jurjani next to it.
Right.
But that gives you, the penetrating insight. من أسرار التعبير القرآني, specific to Surah Al-Ahzab. I'm never going to get that one back now. We've handed it to you. البلاغة القرآنية في تفسير الزمخشري.
Huh?
So this is based on tafsir of Zamakhshari. He's studying Zamakhshari's approach to Balagha. So again, Zamakhshari is one of the founders of the field of tafsir, especially
Right.
tafsir Balaghi. الإعجاز البلاغي دراسة تحليلية لتراث أهل العلم. So this is just sort of looking at the history of Balagha as well. التصوير البياني دراسة تحليل مسائل البيان. So this one is more about علم البيان, and this one is about علم المعاني. خصائص التراكيب دراسة تحليل لمسائل علم المعاني.
Whoa. That's some juicy stuff, man.
It is.
My country comes out when I'm really impressed.
المعنى القرآني. This was the most recent one that I got, because I told a dear friend of mine that I wanted, and sourced it for me.
I don't have friends like that. Huh? Shoot.
Yeah, so there's an ocean.
There's a treasure here.
Ocean
Man.
to plow
It's
through.
a treasure, subhanAllah.
And again, if we're gonna raise our own game, you and I, and those who are with us and those who want to be with us, we
gotta start juicing these books.
These are the people whose
we gotta put these books in a blender and.
But also, your time with the book is shaping a thought process, as they say, forming neural pathways and looking at it through the lens of scholars of the caliber of Sheikh Muhammad Abu Musa or Dr. Fadl Samarai. This is the best guide that you can have through the whole tradition.
And these people have decades behind them of, diving into this material.
They spend their whole time just constantly.
Oh, somebody, stupidly thinks, okay, well, there's Jurjani's book. Why do I have to have his commentary on Jurjani? Because I'm an idiot, and if I go to Jurjani, my head's going to explode. Or even if I think I know what he's saying, I won't know what he's saying, because you need to have a specialist look at specialist language and understand what he's talking about to really benefit from it. And that's why primers like that, golden. That's golden. And that's what Dr. Samarai did on Zamakhshari too. He did, Al-Balagha عند الزمخشري, or Al-Nahwu عند الزمخشري. He did that.
Yeah, that's right. They both, so you could see it as complementary, because Abu Musa has his Balagha, and Fadl Samarai maybe has his Nahwu.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Remarkable stuff, man. MashaAllah. Second floor is my favorite floor, I think. I can stay busy with this and just disappear.
Yeah, so inshallah, I think next time we will think about the Quranic subjects.
Yeah.
And the tafsir.
Quranic subjects. Okay. There is this outlying horizontal set of books. I don't think they belong in this category, or do they? We got to talk about them separately.
Yeah, we'll talk about them separately.
We got to do that, inshallah. But this has been really cool. Jazakumullahu khairan, guys. I hope you guys are enjoying it. And frankly, I don't care if you are, because I'm really enjoying it. So, barakallahu li wa lakum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thanks, Sohaib.
How would you like to explore the heart of the Quran, Surah Yasin, guided by an important mufassir of the 20th century, Muhammad al-Tahir ibn Ashur? We've put on a special course at the Ibn Ashur Center, going through Surah Yasin with a new translation and a new commentary based on the important insights of this great exegete. Head on over to ibnashur.com/academy to find out more. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.